Welcome back to World of Immersion. Today we are going to be ranking the top 10 ride pre-shows that we have been on. Now, a ride pre-show, for those who don't know, is a show or short film or something that takes place before the ride itself. They usually funnel you into a room in the middle of the queue or towards the end of the queue. It almost acts as a way to group guests as well, and they will have some sort of pre-show. It's called a pre-show because it's before the actual show or ride, and it will kind of give a little bit of story. And a lot of these can be very short and simple, but there are some really cool ones which stand out compared to the rest. Some of these pre-shows are almost even better than the rides themselves. I know that's a crazy take, but some of these pre-shows are so good, and they can absolutely make you ride just that much better. And we're going to get right into that list very shortly, but before we start today's video, be sure to hit that subscribe button if you enjoy the content on this channel. We have tons of videos coming out daily, so be sure to stay tuned for all of those and hit that subscribe button so you never miss when there's a brand new upload. With that being said, let's not waste any further time and get right into the video. Alright, so this list was very hard to do because there are so many good pre-shows for rides that I've been on. I wish I could have included every pre-show on this list because honestly there are some really great ones out there, but I had to narrow it down to 2 so this video wouldn't be an hour long. So starting off at number 10, coming in last place but still a great pre-show, is going to be Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway. Now this is one of those pre-shows that is mostly just a screen, however there is a very cool effect at it. It plays a very short film animation that sets up the storyline for the ride itself, and you're watching this animation when all of a sudden the train on the screen crashes and a huge hole appears, a rip at the bottom of the page, and smoke effects as well as the screen itself moving combined make a really cool effect where all of a sudden there's a giant hole at the bottom of the screen and you go right through that into the animation. It's like you're going right into the movie itself, which is very cool. Additionally, I love how the cast member interacts with Goofy on the screen. It's a lot of fun. Just overall, it sets up the story of the ride perfectly. It shows just exactly how you're being transported into the cartoon itself. And that transition from the real world to the cartoon world is perfect. Overall, just a great pre-show and a great setup to the ride. And coming in at number 9 is going to be one of the most recent pre-shows that we got to experience. And that's going to be Wicker Man over at Alton Towers. Now, if I'm being completely honest, I had no clue this ride even had a pre-show when I went into it. And I was completely blown away with how great it is. Once again, similar to Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway, it uses a projection and a screen to tell a bit of a story at first. But what's different about this one is the screen eventually pulls back and you're left with a giant Wicker Man figure statue that's got projection mapping on it. It is incredible. That thing is massive in there. It's very spooky as well. The little hut you're in feels very claustrophobic, very immersive. By far the best theming on this ride is that pre-show. It sets up the story very well for the ride, gives it a very spooky atmosphere, and then that transition from that into the loading station is amazing as well. I do wish the theming carried on a little bit more throughout the ride. However, we're here just to rank the pre-shows, so I'm not going to talk too much about the ride itself. But just overall, a fantastic pre-show, and like I said, completely blown away because I had no clue this one even existed. And moving on to number 8 is going to be actually one of those pre-shows that I enjoy more than the ride itself, and that is going to be Millennium Falcon's Smugglers Run. Now, if you've heard me talk about this ride on the channel before, you'll know I'm not the hugest fan of this ride. However, I am a huge fan of the pre-show. This one utilizes screens a bit, but the main focus of the pre-show is that incredible Hondo Ohnaka animatronic. This is one of the most fluid and lifelike animatronics I have ever seen, ever. It moves so fluidly, it walks around, it is raised up on a platform so it has that effect where it can walk kind of back and forth a little bit. It genuinely looks like an actor up there, by far one of the best animatronics I have ever seen. It also sets up the ride very well, explaining just exactly what mission you're going to do. I'm very curious to see how they are going to change this pre-show when the new ride is introduced. They are doing a Mandalorian overlay to this ride, meaning there's going to be a separate mission, so I'm sure you're going to have to change that pre-show because right now the pre-show is very involved with the current storyline where you have to retrieve the containers of coaxium. So it is going to be interesting to see how they change it. I'm sure they'll change some of the movements of the character as well as the dialogue itself. But like I said, great pre-show, amazing animatronic, and just better than the ride itself in my opinion. Just that great of a pre-show. And coming in at number 7 is going to be the one and only Guardians of the Galaxy Mission Breakout. Once again, this is one of those pre-shows that does have a screen but relies very heavily on an incredible animatronic. This one's cool too because it's set up as sort of a different pre-show, and then all of a sudden you've got Rocket Raccoon who breaks into the room that you're getting pre-showed in. The animatronic of him is great. He is hilarious, as all of the Guardians of the Galaxy films are funny. And he completely throws off what you think you're going to be doing. Obviously, if you've been on the ride before, you can assume what's going to happen. But if you haven't, it's kind of shocking. It's really cool to see Rocket come down there, because you can't see him when you start that pre-show. It looks like he comes out of the vent, then kind of walks around, bangs his head, and then he starts talking to you, and it's a very great animatronic, very lifelike, and just overall a great setup to the ride. Really great pre-show for an incredible ride. Honestly, I don't think there's anything I would change about this pre-show. Just overall a ton of fun, very funny, and some great animatronics. Additionally, be sure to check out the little mini scene that happens as you're leaving. Rocket Raccoon kind of reaches his arms down into one of the cages and grabs the little music device. That's very cool because that's what he plugs in at the very beginning of the ride. So it's kind of a cool little Easter egg. You can see him do that, and you see him plug it in at the beginning of the ride. Very, very cool that happens. But moving on to number 6 is going to be the one and only Enchanted Tales of Beauty and the Beast over at Tokyo Disneyland. This is an awesome pre-show. Once again, one of those pre-shows with an incredible animatronic. You got the pre-show kind of happening on that stained glass window, which tells the story a little bit of Beauty and the Beast. And then you have the incredible, massive Beast animatronic. One of the best animatronics I have ever seen. Beauty and the Beast overall is one of my most favorite attractions in the world. It's an incredible dark ride. Be sure to check out our top 25 dark rides list if you're curious to see just where it ranks. But this pre-show absolutely is an amazing setup to it. One of the coolest animatronics I have ever seen, and a great addition to this amazing ride. But just one step above it is a ride that I would say honestly is very similar to Beauty and the Beast. And that is going to be Symbolica over at Efteling. Symbolica is an incredible attraction. Be sure to check out all of our vlogs and reviews from Efteling if you're curious how I feel about this ride. But spoiler alert, it is one of my favorite attractions of all time. It's an incredible dark ride. But the pre-show is amazing. Now, I went into Symbolica practically blind. I had seen a few things from the ride itself, but I had never seen the pre-show. So it was incredible to see for the first time. Be sure to skip ahead if you do not want any spoilers for this one, because it is very cool if you don't know the spoilers. But I'm going to talk about it now. And this pre-show is so cool because you have an animatronic that is on this staircase. You are looking at the staircase, and you think either you're going to go up that staircase or around it. But honestly, it is kind of hard to tell where you're going to go. And the animatronic starts reading from a very, very long piece of paper. And you have another animatronic that comes up from the top of the staircase. And then all of a sudden, some magic happens. And the staircase splits open. And right down the middle of the staircase is a pathway. That's where you go. It is completely out of nowhere. Such a cool effect. The fog filling the room as well, too, adds to the illusion even more. And just overall is one of the coolest and most surprising pre-shows I've ever seen. Additionally, the animatronics, while they're not as lifelike as the Disney ones on this list so far, they still get the job done, and I think they're very, very cool and very well detailed. But moving on to number 4 is going to be the most historical pre-show on this list. It's actually the ride that started the trend of pre-shows, and that is going to be the one and only Haunted Mansion. Now, there are plenty of Haunted Mansion rides out there, and it would be impossible to rank every single one of them as part of this list, so I'm going to lump them all in as one because they are all very, very similar, and they all have this stretching room effect. However, by far the best one is the one at Disneyland because that one actually is an elevator. It is very cool. It takes you down. This was built out of necessity because they had to find a way to get you down below the train tracks so you could go underneath them and then into the ride show building, which is on the other side of the train tracks, outside of the berm. And because it was built out of necessity, they wanted to theme it, and that's what started a pre-show. Pre-shows were built out of necessity. Now they're a trend, and almost every new major attraction has one. But this Haunted Mansion one still holds up so incredibly well today. I love the stretching room effect. It is done so well. The room around you is stretching so far. The room gets so big. It is crazy. Additionally, this pre-show can be a little bit scarier. I'd say it's almost scarier than the ride itself. It's very loud at the end. It's honestly very dark for Disney too. You've got the guy hanging at the top once the lightning flashes, which is very crazy for Disney. But just overall, it's a great, great pre-show. Sets the vibe so perfectly for the ride. It's one of my favorite attractions in the world. And the pre-show helps that out so much. But moving on to our top 3, and all 3 of these were very, very hard to rank. But coming in at number 3 for me is going to be the one and only Cosmic Rewind. Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind. Now, Cosmic Rewind has an incredible pre-show. While the queue itself, in my opinion, isn't too well themed, The pre-show is incredible. It sets up the ride so perfectly. It is what transports you from Epcot to another planet. You're out in outer space, and it is just crazy. The entire room around you completely changes. I've never seen this effect done anywhere else, and it is done so well. You start off in one room, the lights go out, and when the lights come back on just a half a second later, you are in a completely different room. It truly feels like you have been teleported. Now, I know maybe over video or anything it might not appear as well, but when you're in person, the effect is done so incredibly well. And it really sets up the story so perfectly. It gives you a reason as to why you are not on Epcot anymore. You're on the planet of Xandar, and it is done so well. Truly an incredible, magical pre-show. And honestly, I still don't even really know how they do it. But it doesn't beat out the number 2 attraction on this list, which is by far the newest attraction, and that is going to be the one and only Monsters Unchained, the Frankenstein Experiment. Wow, is this pre-show incredible. It has 2 incredible animatronics. The first animatronic of Victoria Frankenstein is really cool. I do wish it didn't have projection mapping. That honestly is my one complaint about this entire pre-show. But the other animatronic of Frankenstein's monster is insane. It is massive. That thing is like 8 feet tall. It is so lifelike and fluid. It takes steps towards you. It walks so far, and it is just incredible to see it that tall and that close to you. You are so close to that animatronic, you could almost reach out and touch it. It also sets up the storyline very, very well for the ride. Additionally, this ride has 2 pre-shows. And for all these rides that have multiple pre-shows, we're counting them all as one. It's all still the pre-show. And Monsters Unchained has a great first pre-show as well. That one with the animatronics is the second one. The first pre-show is not as cool, but it still works really well. The first pre-show features Igor, and he starts off wearing a mask with a voice changer effect, and it's very, very spooky. And then all of a sudden, the mask comes off because he starts choking. And you see that it's Igor, who's a lot more of a funny kind of character. Definitely a little bit more lighthearted before the second pre-show, which is a little bit scarier. And I love that you get to see that ride system. It honestly sets up the ride to be a lot scarier and more intense than it actually is, because that ride vehicle is flailing around like crazy. That would almost completely decapitate you if you were moving around on that vehicle with that speed. So it is definitely scary to see that happening. But just overall, these 2 pre-shows in combination with one another are incredible. And those animatronics, like I said, just absolutely insane. The Frankenstein animatronic is one of the best animatronics I've ever seen in my life. But it doesn't come in at number 1, and that honor, this honestly should be no surprise to anybody, is going to be the one and only Rise of the Resistance. Now, what's crazy about this ride is this ride actually has 3 different pre-shows. And one of those pre-shows is a ride itself. Now, like I said, all the ones that have multiple pre-shows, I am lumping in as one pre-show because it is all pre to the ride itself. It's all a pre-show. And this one has 3 incredible pre-shows. Even the first one itself would have made the list. And that is by far the weakest one. You've got the animatronic of BB-8, which is very, very cool. You got the hologram of Ray, which is done really well. And then you enter the ship, the transport ship. And this is such a cool effect. You enter the doors on one side. You get caught in a tractor beam by a Star Destroyer. Then you land in that Star Destroyer, and then the doors open on the same side that you entered from. And you are inside of the Star Destroyer. It is one of the coolest reveals I have ever seen of all time. Those doors open up on the same side that you got in on, and you are just greeted with a wall of stormtroopers. A massive screen is set behind, and it really does look like you're in space. Truly one of the best reveals I've ever seen on a ride. And that's not to mention the final third pre-show, which is very cool. You get put into a jail cell. Then Kylo Ren and General Hux come to speak to you and interrogate you. And as soon as they go away, you get broken out by the Resistance. It sets up the storyline so well. It is one of the best ways that you can set up why you are getting on a ride vehicle for any ride. Most rides, it's just like you're boarding the ride vehicle to go on the ride, whereas this one, you're getting on to escape. You were caught on the Star Destroyer, and you're getting on this ride vehicle to escape the Star Destroyer, and it's going to take you down to the escape pods. It's just a perfect ride. And the pre-show set it up so perfectly that it just had to come in at number 1. But that's going to do it for my ranking of the top 10 pre-shows in the world. Be sure to comment down below if there's anything I missed, anything that I absolutely need to go out there and experience. I feel like I've got some great pre-shows on this list, but obviously there could be a ton of other ones out there that I've yet to experience. So be sure to comment that down below. Hit that subscribe button if you enjoyed this video and you want to see more content like this. And thank you so much for watching World of Immersion. We'll catch you in the next video.